Happy Thursday, everyone. Today we're going to be studying something that you do every single day. And the word of the day is dialogue. Dialogue. Dialogue is just a fancy word for spoken conversation between two or more people. You can also have what's called inner dialogue, which represents the thoughts a character is thinking. Dialogue is an important tool that good writers use to show versus tell, which we've talked about over the last few days, and to help bring the reader inside a particular moment. Think of an argument. Think of a very heated argument. If on these TV shows you like to watch, you don't want to see a character say, "Oh yeah, we fought." You want to see those angry messages sent back and forth in person or over text. That's what dialogue does. It brings you into that moment. Whether that's an argument or a romantic declaration or a mental breakdown or a secret being told, dialogue allows us to do that. So instead of telling our readers that we're excited or we're depressed or scared or shocked or unsure, we can show that through dialogue. It's a great way to reveal conflict. So today you're going to read a story that is totally written in dialogue. It's all dialogue. The narrator and the characters don't tell us directly what the conflict is, but they show us through dialogue, through the conversation between the two characters, who are also not who we think they are. So if you have not read Meat yet, go ahead and pause and do that. It's extremely short. It should probably take you less than 5 minutes. And once you're done, come back to the video lesson and I'll discuss the story and what you're doing moving forward with your vignettes revisions. So early on in Meat, we can assume that there are two characters exploring a different planet. And I say two because we have this back and forth of only two people talking to each other. And we assume that these characters have already captured what might be considered aliens, and that when they inspected them, they found that the aliens were completely meat. That's in this sentence here. Definitely not normal to hear of things being made of meat unless they're animals, like cows or pigs or deer. As we continue reading, we realize that these meat-made aliens created machines to communicate with the two astronaut characters. Right here. One of the astronauts is flabbergasted and asks the other, "How can meat make a machine?" You're asking me to believe in sentient meat. If you're sentient, that just means that you are capable of thinking and feeling. And as we know, hamburgers and hot dogs and strip steaks do not think or feel. As readers, we're probably siding with the first astronaut. How could cows, after all, build any kind of machine? So then the two astronauts get into this back and forth dialogue about what alien species the meat could be. But they don't really fit into any of the categories because they stay meat for all of their lives. The brain is made of meat. And they are also capable of communicating. At one point, the astronaut says that they communicate using meat sounds and by flapping their meat at each other, which sounds really weird. I think that's right down here. Yeah, they talk by flapping their meat at each other. They can even sing by squirting air through their meat. Sounds really weird, but at this point you may have picked up on the realization. Do you know who these aliens are? Near the end, the astronauts discuss getting in touch with the meat, but they decide not to do so. We find out that they cleared the aliens' meat brains. Right about here. Yeah, we went into their heads and smoothed out their meat so that we're just a dream to them. So it's almost as if they've been brainwashed. I'm like, okay. They then decide to mark this sector unoccupied. And when we hear the word sector, we can assume that that's maybe some part of the universe. We're some part of the galaxy. And finally, we will learn that there is some other species in outer space that possesses intelligence and that they always come around. So that kind of makes us think that, oh, okay, I think I've possibly figured this out. The two astronauts are actually aliens. The two astronauts are aliens, and they're exploring the universe for other signs of life. And the meat, which we thought were some sort of aliens, those are humans. Their organs are made out of meat. Their brains, their heart, their intestines. It's all, to a stranger, to an alien who was looking in on our world, they might think that we are made out of meat. It's a weird way for us to hear ourselves described, but it's how other species in the universe might perceive us. This last line of dialogue, which is partially covered up here in the video, but it's so perfect because it alludes to how cold and lonely the universe would be if, these alien astronauts were the only intelligent species out there. Which is ironic because as humans, we tend to think that we are the most intelligent, that we're the only ones, and we're still kind of wondering if aliens are even out there. Well, this astronaut species has already discovered many other forms of life. They talk about them casually, so they probably discovered them a long time ago, and it looks like they've traveled the universe thoroughly and are basically going to each sector to check for other forms of life, whereas we've only really been in our area, our very small little corner of the universe, which is the Milky Way galaxy. We're way behind and we didn't even realize it. So today I want you to go to your vignette called Home, where you wrote about your house and what makes it a home for you, or perhaps what does not make it a home for you. And I want you to use dialogue to highlight the characters, the setting, and the conflicts in this vignette. Some rules for using that, or some suggestions. Whenever you see the words said or told, you can absolutely turn that statement into dialogue. So, like, for example, I told my mom why I was angry. Instead of saying, I told my mom why I was angry, show us the conversation between you and your mom so that we can feel like we're in that moment with you. Any characters that are in your story should use dialogue. Um, in Meat, the author communicated information to us indirectly without ever saying the words. That's okay. They never said the words humans, they never said aliens, they never said space. But somehow we were able to figure out that this was taking place in outer space and that there were aliens and humans involved, just not exactly in the roles we thought they'd be in. So I want you to look at your vignette and identify places where you can take out the obvious and communicate less directly. Again, you're showing instead of telling. These are less suggestions. These are more actual rules for formatting your dialogue. It's always going to be identified by particular punctuation. Anything that the character says needs to be hugged inside quotation marks. And these are your quotation marks here. Anything that the character does not say should be outside of the quotation marks. It is really as simple as that. Most of your punctuation will also be inside the quotation marks, including your commas, possibly your periods. You should also start a new line each time a new character speaks, just like in Meat. Your dialogue will also have what is called a tag, which is a statement that comes before or after it. And there are some examples here. When's dinner going to be ready? She asked. The tag in this example is she asked, because that's not part of what this girl said. Therefore, it's not in quotation marks. Notice how the question mark, though, is inside quotation marks because it's a part of what she said. Then she is lowercase. because it's still technically part of the same sentence, and the period occurs at the end. You should never, ever, ever have more than one period in a sentence. A lot of people will try to put like a period here and then a period here. That's incorrect. You would either have a comma, a question mark, or an explanation point, but you would never have a period here and then a period after the tag. Another example with the tag in the beginning instead of at the end. He said, "I appreciate you being here today." So in this case, the he is capitalized because in the tag, because it's the start of a sentence, and we always capitalize the first letter of the first word of every sentence. There is a comma after he said, because there's a natural pause there. And then the actual statement that he made, "I appreciate you being here today," is in quotation marks with the period inside. Okay. So this is what your dialogue should look like in your revised vignettes today. Remember that you can also use inner dialogue to represent the thoughts of characters, and inner dialogue is punctuated just the same. Um, I'll be on today from 11 to 12 and 1 to 2, so get in touch if you need some help.